Good morning, everybody. My name is Jody. My husband David John and I have a small farm in the panhandle of North Idaho. These are our stories and adventures. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And on with today's adventure. As you see, we're out in the garden again. Got to get my 4 remaining raised beds, the roots from last year, because I just nipped all the peppers and all the beans and everything off and just left the roots in the ground. Have to get those cleaned out. And I do have some compost and peat moss that I'm going to mend these beds with. So they'll be prepped for hopefully tomorrow getting my seeds put in. So on with starting to get these beds cleaned up. Well, now that I got all the old roots dug out, gonna show you the compost stuff, and it is the stuff from that I dug out of the Muscovy pen last year and put in a pile. It's about 90% broke down, so gonna add that, and like I said, the peat moss, sorry, and maybe one of those a little long in the tooth for getting the spring stuff in, but was talking with some friends at work and they don't have their potatoes in yet, so I don't feel like I'm that far behind. So on with getting this one ready to get onions and carrots, I think are going in this one. So let's get the compost. So as you see, it's kind of, here, let's get a couple scoops in the bed and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can still kind of see that there is some shavings, but they're really broke down, and there is some but get this. You can see it looks pretty good. It's got still some fine wood and everything in it, but that'll be fine. Some of the grass, it's not 100%, but it is working its way that way. May not be the most perfect compost, but it will add to the soil, minus that weed. But gonna go through, get a layer put in here, get it mixed in with some peat moss, and we should be good. But to me it looks good. May not be 100% broke down, but I think it will be enough to just add what the plants need, what was taken out of this bed last year. So gonna finish getting this bed done and get the other 3 done so we can start planting. The exciting part instead of the hard work. So I've got all the beds done. The soaker hoses, for the most part, in place. Have gone through and lightly watered them. So hopefully the wind's, hopefully the wind's not too loud. So I just wanted to kind of have a little serious talk. There's millions of different ways to garden. If we all garden the same, there would be no different channels to watch, different things to learn. It would just be all bam, 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 this is how you garden. So and I'm just going through and showing you how I'm doing it. I watch different channels. I pick stuff up from what they're doing. Sometimes I follow their lead and do exactly how they've done it. And then I'll change it the next year, tweak it a little bit. But it's one of those, we're lucky because we can do these big raised beds. I know there are people out there that can't afford to do that because it costs a lot to fill one of these up with soil. The simple in-ground gardens that are behind me and in front of me. Yeah, the basic have your rows works too. Works fine, works great. We're just improving them by putting the boxes around them just to keep it looking a little neater and cleaner, but not necessary. That's for our vanity, not for the plants. The plants don't care. Soaker hoses. No, I didn't have this one in place yet. Brand new one. I use soaker hoses in all of my beds, and the main reason I do that is because we found with overhead watering that, especially our summer and winter squashes, that we were getting a lot of blossom in rot, which happens when the blossom fills up with water and then it doesn't get fully pollinated. Hi, Yeti. And then the fruit starts to form because it's been partially pollinated, and then the end of it just starts to rot. I haven't really had that issue since we started using the soaker hoses. A friend of mine at work, she does overhead watering, and she's never had that big of an issue with blossom in rot. So 2 ways of gardening led with 2 different results. Mine lost that 1 year until we figured it out, lost almost all of our zucchinis and cucumbers. She's always bringing extra into work, so it's one of those, watch the different channels, watch the different techniques, do what works for you. It's like my youngest daughter, Darla, she lives in an apartment. She wanted a raspberry bush for on her porch. She's got a beautiful southern-facing balcony on her apartment, and so we took a 5-gallon bucket, drilled some holes in it, dug her up a clump of raspberries, and has raspberries on her balcony. Do what works for where you're at in your stage of life. Because if you're not trying to grow something, you're going, I can't do it because it's just an excuse. You're not willing to try. And it's one of those, it's like my elephant garlic. I planted it, what was it, the end of November, like 2 weeks before our winter just went haywire and we went into cold, and went out and checked today, and it looks like I've got 8 bulbs that are growing. Not as many as I planted, but if I hadn't planted them at all, I wouldn't have the 8. So it's one of those, watch what people are doing, learn from what people are doing, tweak it, make it your own, do what makes sense for you, not what makes sense for me, because I'm not in your garden helping you in your garden. And yes, Darla probably, to begin with, will, once she's out of the apartment and has her own place, will probably garden basically like me, because this is how she learned to garden. This is not how I learned to garden. My gardening was growing up, the big garden, it was all tilled, no grass, no nothing. You had your rows planted. You were out there constantly weeding. And so every year as I grew up, the garden just kept getting smaller because my mom couldn't keep up with it. So, and that's part of the reason for the in-ground garden behind you guys, because we do have the grass walkways. Wanting to do the boxes is to help cut down on the weed pressure. Same with the shavings in the walkways and the shavings on the beds, just to reduce on weed pressure. Because nothing gets more frustrating than planting a beautiful garden and then it's overtaken with weeds and you just throw your hands up because you've lost the battle with the weeds. So it's one of those, just try. You're going to have failures, but you're going to have success. And if you're not trying, you can't have the opportunity for success. And so tomorrow Darla is going to come out after my dentist appointment. We're going to get these raised beds planted and in areas that would be good to get shavings down, like over where the peas are. We'll plant everything and then just kind of scatter some shavings in areas that make sense, like where the carrots are or the lettuce seeds. It wouldn't make sense to put shavings down because those seeds are so small they won't be able to push up through the shavings. So that's where I'm going to end it for today. Going to go down and feng shui the porch because it's finally sunny and beautiful and warm enough for us to be moving out to our outdoor living room. Show you that after I've got that all done. So just remember, try. Doesn't hurt.